scary to try this even though there are people in the kitchen right outside of my room. So if you hear people... If there was ever any question about where my fondest and most treasured memories came from as a child, I might answer with the Friday nights my family spent at the local Tex-Mex restaurant minutes away from our house, or the summers spent at my grandparents' house 6 hours from the town I grew up in, or watching as my parents and older brother unboxed a Nintendo Wii for the first time. But the truth is, all of these instances of memories carry a through line, and that is the smash hit video game franchise created in February of the year 2000, just 3 years before I was born, The Sims. Yes, we'd spend our Friday evenings at the local Tex-Mex restaurant with my tiny self elbow deep in the chips and guacamole before my fried bean and cheese burritos at the table. Yes, fried. I specifically asked every time, very surprised I didn't just end up putting it on the menu. But often on the car ride home or even at the table before we left, I'd look at my older brother with my best little sister face I could and ask to stay up a little later with him to play The Sims. The answer was a foolproof yes every time. Yes, summers at my grandparents' house were full of pool days, taco nights, mall trips, and even if I'm remembering correctly, a day at a science museum once. But in between all of that was hours upon hours clocked into The Sims 2, an old CD-ROM my brother had let me borrow since he had long since moved to The Sims 3 by the time I asked for it. I played with my cousin, him insisting my sim be the ugliest one. Love is shown in very strange ways. And yes, hours spent on Wii Sports and New Super Mario Bros. And even at some point an Iron Chef game that somehow fell upon us were deeply treasured. But nothing will compare to me roaming around a GameStop seeing The Sims 3 for the Wii sitting on the shelf. My favorite game on, at the time, my most accessible gaming system. Is it one of the most broken and unplayable games in the franchise? Yes. Not the point. I was geeked. I made that laggy ass shit work, damn it. Even the first game I bought for myself that didn't come from my brother was the weird, wacky, and ever-beloved The Sims 2 for the Nintendo DS. Imagine my shock when I booted it up and was greeted with the hotel management simulator that takes place in the Sims 2 neighborhood of Strangetown. Nonetheless, the soundtrack is forever burned into my brain. This game never really phased out for me either. I still adore it. Being 21 and watching every single long-form Sims video I can find, I was 9 and watching Life Simmers Generations, Pets, Ambitions, and even Sims 2 University LP. And, of course, as a budding emo kid, Sims 2 and Sims 3 YouTube emo love stories and music videos. As much as everything changes, sometimes everything stays the same, too. So, you may be wondering by this point of my Yap Fest, I wonder how Corey feels about The Sims 4, considering its mixed reputation. And to tell you the truth, mixed is kind of right on the money for me. Sometimes I can genuinely have fun with The Sims 4. I will catch myself getting caught up in the classic Sims loop, where I open the laptop at 5 p.m. and end up shutting it by 3 a.m., itching to do it again the next day, becoming attached to my Sims, invested in their skills, relationships, and jobs, and whatever else I decide is important to their story. But that's only sometimes. Other times, I go back to older games in the series and just look at The Sims 4 and sigh. There's this undeniable spark and charm to these games that The Sims 4 hasn't been able to capture in its 10-year run. There is a beautiful attention to detail that makes these Sims and these worlds feel like experiences of immersion rather than just parts of a whole game. Each element demands to feel like an experience rather than individual steps to a larger setup. Hell, in Create a Sim alone, you are taken into entire rooms separate from the universe of the game entirely. Pictures on the wall, a mirror, a couch, a rug. Being able to select through these neighborhoods after setting up your own household and getting a bird's eye view of literally everything. Even the option to create a world of your own if you have the inspiration and time, which most of the time, playing the base game of an older installment alone would give you inspiration that lasted months. A live mode experience filled with tiny moments in the animation that made for such real and authentic storytelling. A spontaneity that left players feeling like they were experiencing these moments with their Sims, not to mention the endless ways players could face consequences based on the choices they did or didn't make, making the stakes for these families and stories feel way higher than just a 5-second emotion change. Yeah, the emotion system for Sims 4. It's not that The Sims 4 doesn't have the ability to be a fun gaming experience. I wouldn't still be keeping an eye out for pack releases and game updates if I wasn't. But it took multiple years for The Sims 4 to even start feeling like a Sims game. A launch with no toddlers, no pools, no cars, removal of an open world, no creative style, no burglars or repo men, no ghosts, no aliens. This launch was so lackluster, I was yearning for rabbit holes, for God's sake. Yes, we got most of these things in later patches and later expansions in the years to come following the game's release, but by that time I was becoming more and more detached from The Sims 4. There was little to nothing in the game's core mechanics or gameplay to truly care about, so what was going to make me care about this game? Even in later expansions and updates, they had this running issue of feeling so slapdash and feeling so here damn all the time that it became difficult to even look forward to them. Not to mention they often came with multiple bugs or just were flat out broken. Night out, you deserve so much better. It's gotten to the point now where the custom content and modding community has been carrying this game on its back. Even most people that I see that only play The Sims 4 have heavily modded games. If you can't play a game without dozens of patches, expansions, and mods to make it playable, let alone interesting, is it a good game? The slow decline of The Sims as a franchise, in my opinion, can be traced back to Will Wright, the creator of The Sims, leaving development team Maxis in 2009. Will Wright has not had any involvement in the development of The Sims since the end of The Sims 2's life cycle, stating in a Reddit post during an AMA, "For me, after a certain number of years working on any title, I'm totally sick of it. I never want to play or touch SimCity again in my life. I reached the same point in The Sims after working on and off for about 10 years. This AMA is genuinely a goldmine. Wright talks about so many games from the SimCity series, SimAnt, Spore, his upcoming Project Proxy, and of course The Sims. His response doesn't surprise me, and it's not like I don't understand him for wanting to leave. He laid out a fantastic foundation, made the game what it was, and put his trust into a team that he had gotten to know professionally for a decade. It's just heartbreaking that in the years to come following his departure, the initial vision for Will Wright's creation was lost. To be clear, I am a gaming person in the same way your average person likes movies. I consume them, I develop an opinion, I replay depending on my opinion, and it ends there. I am not sitting there reviewing specs, taking apart devices and learning how to fix things, or building my own PC. But what I am a nerd about is people. I love studying brains, our nervous systems, trauma, behaviors, memory, all of these things that make us who we are. And it turns out, after looking through this Reddit AMA, Will Wright is very much the same way. When talking about how he went about developing The Sims and his new game Proxy, psychology and memory and human behavior are brought up several times. Through creating these games, he realized it was so much more about trying to understand humans and what makes us happy, sad, afraid, unfulfilled, or what anything actually means to us at all, rather than just trying to figure out how to play dolls but on the computer. And this adds up. What is considered the darling of the franchise, The Sims 2, is such a darling because it brings the personhood to the forefront of the gameplay. A new memory system that has a genuine impact on your Sims' lives. A relationship and chemistry system that is rich and a lot more difficult to mess with, even with cheats, unlike its descendants. A genetic system that plays with actual biology and makes it really hard to do a random genetics or breed out the ugly challenge, if you will, although that one may be a bit more doable. The biggest thing that made me want to talk about the psychology behind The Sims in the first place was because of something I talked about in therapy. It's not uncommon after the meat and potatoes of a session to talk about something more lighthearted. Plus, I've been seeing my therapist for 6 years, so we are genuinely interested in each other's hobbies. She was recommending I get back into The Sims to reconnect with myself due to the disgusting descent into fascism of it all, and we started talking about the different ways in which we both played the game. She brought up being a bit violent and chaotic, whereas I tend to play in a utopian way, where everything goes so right it's almost robotic. My Sims have a perfect amount of money, great relationships, needs always maxed, no fights, no affairs, and generally no deaths either. My therapist took that opportunity to point out that my playstyle could reflect my need for control and harmony due to living in a world completely disharmonious and terrifying. No terror or drama in my game equals everyone is happy, including me. Well, fuck you too. But it really got me thinking, especially as a therapist-to-be myself, is The Sims just an incredibly elaborate way to soothe ourselves, process our emotions, and essentially cope with our own traumas living in a world where everything feels really hopeless? Could you continue playing as a relative after they've passed on in real life and use it as a tool for grief? Could you make your family from scratch and immediately alter the dynamic your Sim family has with one another so you could give your inner child the experience of having a safe and loving childhood? And based on what Wright talks about in this AMA, I really don't think I'm too far off. Essentially, what The Sims 4 gets wrong that previous games get right is that the game doesn't aim to serve the player and the human element of life. The Sims 4 is not a game that cares about the way memories work or the way that fulfillment works, or the lasting impact our experiences have on our emotions and our lives moving forward. It cares about being associated with a game that does, so that way they can make 36 DLCs and call it a day. The Sims as a concept is incredibly layered, and that's what makes it so successful. But when you water it down to this degree, it loses what made it beautiful in the first place. Will Wright, come home, the kids miss you. And again, I'm not saying The Sims 4 is necessarily a bad game. I have fun with it. I have so much custom content installed, my Sims look sick as fuck, and I'm getting better at building. And I gotta say, I am having so much fun with the businesses and hobbies pack. They brought Grandma Hattie back. Herbs Sims in a City for DS mentioned in 2025, hello. And to give credit over the years, with patches and expansions and game packs, some truly awesome and engaging gameplay features have been added. For example, I adore the milestones feature from Growing Together. I love the fact that a Sim's life can essentially be documented from birth. I just wish it didn't take years to have something that is elemental to life in a life simulation game. Honestly, I think the reason why I'm so passionate about these issues with The Sims 4 is because of how much I love The Sims, and how much I want it to continue and succeed and thrive in the life sim genre. I've been playing these games since I was a child, and I've grown to have an attachment to them that is unlike a lot of my other interests as I've grown. I was 6 when I actually played the game for the first time instead of watching my brother play, and I'm 21 now. That's 15 years of this bullshit. I'm elderly in this community, damn it. Simply put, I critique it because I love it. I don't want it to die out there in the real world. I raised it from the bottom up. The Sims will forever be something that holds so much comfort and warmth and value to me, so with that being said, yay, I'd love to be a game changer. I'm just passionate and intense. Anyway, my deep dive has to be done. My energy need is in the red. We're gone here.